Welcome back, folks, to the next episode in our tutorial series for the Boeing 787-8 Kuro version 2 and the 787-10 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. We are almost at Manchester. We're going to dive straight in now. We've got a lot of work to do to establish for the ILS. So we've come out 030 degrees. We now need to intercept the ILS approach from about 30 degrees maximum. Runway 23 right.
2500.
So we'll set 257 degrees for now. Runway course for runway 23 right is 231. So 261 would give us 30 degrees. But actually I'll keep the turn coming to 251. Round we go. Flap 15 could be useful here, and just as we're coming up on the heading, we're going to arm approach mode. Little bit of an overshoot on the ILS there, that's my fault. So we're going to monitor the aeroplane as we get back on the ILS here. We might have to try and preempt it and be a bit proactive with the heading select, but it's already picked up 231, 232 for the course. And it's working to get itself back on the path really nicely here. 180, 232, 3,500 feet. Terrain mode is just going to get really confusing, so we'll get rid of that. And we can turn the weather radar off as well, if you're using weather radar. By selecting terrain mode, by the way, weather radar will switch itself off. So 180, 3,500, order brake set, speed brake is armed, parking brake is off. Frequency set, nav data has been double checked, and our missed approach is briefed. Final check of the lights and signs, and a recall for any warnings. As we spoke about before, this is going to be an ILS approach. We've configured for a Cat 2 ILS, but actually what we're going to be doing is turning the autopilot and auto thrust off near to short final, about 4 miles or so roughly, or about 1,000 feet, whichever I feel is most appropriate on the approach. Now watching the primary flight display. There's the glide slope, there's the lateral guidance. Glide slope's alive. Now we're on the glides. DME currently INN 232, 9 miles. 180 knots until about 8 DME, and then we can think about decelerating the aeroplane to 160. We're going to go gear down now. That's going to help decelerate the aeroplane. We're already at flap 15, so we'll just keep it at flap 15 for now. 136 knots is our VREF. If we add 5 to that, that comes to 141 knots. So that's what we're going to set next. So 160 until 4 DME. So when that DME there reaches to about 4.5, we then wind the speed down, decelerate the aeroplane. With flaps extended and slats extended and the gear down, we've got extra drag on the aeroplane. That's going to help slow us down on that short final. Keep an eye on it through the approach, make sure it's doing exactly what you want it to. This aeroplane, at least currently as I record this, is a little bit wobbly on the ILS. Flap 20, in fact let's set flap 25, which is the final stage for landing that we are going to select today. 5 miles now. 4.8. Let's set 141 knots. Get down 3 green, flap 25 green. Missed approach altitude of 3,500 is set. If we were going to do a Cat 3 auto land, it's already ready for that. Look, roll out and flare are both armed. We might cover that in another tutorial another time. And land 3 mode is active, but for this tutorial today. Coming up to about 1,400 feet, 144 knots or so at the minute. Auto thrust off. Now my throttles. Got a slight crosswind to contend with. Look at the nav display there. Autopilot off. So my aeroplane, check. Bit of a crosswind. Pitch for speed. That speed is kind of just dropped off there, and so has our altitude. We've sunk a little bit there just with that change in wind direction and speed all of a sudden. So be proactive, try and get back on the ILS nicely. Don't chase it too much. If you chase it way too hard, you'll actually find you'll over balloon as you try and intercept the ILS a little bit there. So a little bit of work to do. Keeping the aeroplane nice and smooth in the controls and nicely trimmed for the approach as well. Rate of descent there is way too high, so I'm going to add power. Still looking at the touchdown zone. And now as we close in on that, we've got a bit of a crosswind all of a sudden, not expected. We're going to look to the end for depth perception. Here we go. Checking the aeroplane. Idling the throttles. Getting pushed off the runway a little bit there, but that's fine. Letting the nose wheel come down gently and adding in reverse thrust. A bit firm. Through 80 knots. Thinking about where we're vacating. It's always a little bit tough at times talking through things. Vacating now at 50 knots. Get rid of the reverse thrust. Onto this high-speed exit at Bravo Delta. Still letting the aeroplane decelerate. And now on the brakes for this fairly sharp turn. One thing that's worth noting is making sure you don't stop on the high-speed exit. So providing it's clear for you, any aeroplanes here should stop to give way. You're going to continue off and then you're going to turn onto whatever taxiway you need to turn onto. And we can now think about configuring the aeroplane after landing. So runway turn off lights off, strobe lights off, landing lights off. We can bring all of our flaps up and we can stow our ground spoilers or our speed brake. We're going to identify the taxi route to the gate that we're going to be assigned, and we're going to make sure if we are assigned a certain route by ATC that we follow it really precisely to the exact gate required. Having a little look at the overhead panel as well though, what we can do is turn the engine anti-ice off and we can start the APU. Press and hold for a little bit, release. Then we can think about the taxi in. So, having a look specifically at the taxi charts with the parking stands included here by Navigraph, we vacated on Bravo, we're now turning on to Delta. Past the tower, we're going to head up to stand 27. So a nice easy route here. So Bravo, Delta, onto Lima. Oh, a little bit of echo really, but effectively you would just be told Delta stand 27 and you'll be able to identify that it's there. You click the system page, go to status, you'll be able to see the APU status as well for that starter. And if you're using something like GSX, we can load it up and we can identify the stand that we're going to use. So we mentioned stand 27, we don't need to follow me. We'll get that set up so that it's all ready and waiting for us as we get ready to park, and that stand is just ahead of us there as we look at it. APU gens are on at the moment. If you want to, you can turn off one of the engines. Engine 2 would be the one probably that you would look to turn off first. We can turn the flight directors off and check to make sure we've got no lights on here in the MCP for anything that's still shown armed. Transponder can come all the way off, either onto standby or whatever mode is required depending on where you're operating around the world. Some airports have got different requirements in relation to the use of a transponder, and we can press TFC to remove that traffic window on the nav display too. And we can press ICAS if we want. We don't need the nav display really to bring the engine instruments to the captain's view. Taking our time as we taxi then, there's no rush. There are speed limits on the taxi as well, don't forget. And just before we come to park and we've identified the stand that we want, we need to confirm the safe dock is active if we're using it, or a marshaller is in position ready to see us in, and then we're going to turn the taxi lights off and begin the turn in. So again, don't forget, we want that yellow line right in between the two main wheels, so it does mean the nose wheel's got to come across a little bit, and heading into stand now, just keeping that speed down really nice and slow. Smooth deceleration. Having a look at that safe dock for our guidance. So a little red arrow there telling us we need to come left a little bit, and we can see the little yellow arrow guiding us in, giving us a rough guide of distance. Keeping the speed down. 3 meters to go. 2, 1, and stop. Bar brake sets. Engines off. So making sure the APU's on. External powers automatically come available here because of how it is, and we can go to fuel control to cut off. APU generators should take the power, and once chocks are in place, put the wing icing off. Once the chocks are in place, we can turn the beacon lights off as well. And that is it. If you're using a system like GSX, we can go ahead, open it up, and deboard all the passengers and the cargo as required. And there you have it. A complete flight tutorial series for the 787-8 and the -10 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I hope you found it really useful. Hit like and subscribe. Hope you enjoy flying it and learning the aeroplane post AAU2. It's got some incredible new features, and of course it's allowed that Kuro 787 aircraft add-on to really excel as well. Keep an eye on the channel for any future live streams and a continuation of the tutorial series as we look at some of the more niche elements to this, like an autoland. And I'll see you very soon. Thanks for watching. Take care.